Welcome back to Retro Rambles and part 2 in my series on the Elite series of games. Now, if you've not seen part 1, go and watch it. I'll wait for you. You done? Marvellous. Today's video is all about Frontier, released by Konami and Game Tech in 1993. And that in itself was a bit of a drama, because the game was not released finished. And David Braben wasn't very happy about it, and it would cause a furore of legal issues between him and Konami over subsequent months. But our story doesn't begin there. Our story begins about 13, 14 months earlier, in the summer of 1992. And I'd just been and got the latest issue of the one for Amiga Games. Excuse me. And the big feature in that magazine at the time, that month, was a preview, the upcoming sequel to Elite, called High Frontier, which was what it was called for pretty much most of its development, if I remember correctly. I know if you go onto Google and go through their use group archive, there's a lot of references to High Frontier, and it's quite interesting to read. So, I dashed home with this magazine, read it from cover to cover, read this article I should say, more than once, and rang my friend David, who I mentioned in last week's video. Now David is older than me it's about 9 months older than me, so he was in the year above me at school. So whilst I was just about to go into year 11, he was just about to go into the lower 6, so he was well in. No, I lie. I was about to go into... No, I don't. I tell the absolute truth. I was about to go into year 11. He was going to go into the lower 6. Anyway, he was very much going through the I'm going to teenage parties phase. Why am I telling you this? Because I rang him up, and he was on his own at home, and he went, hello, and he was really he was obviously teenage hangover, which he's obviously had a sniff of a can of shandy bass, and that's laid him out for a week. And I said, you in? I'm not feeling too well. And I went, oh, okay. Said... got an interesting article in Amiga Mag. And I went, there's going to be a sequel to Elite. You could almost hear the little voice in his head going, hangover, deleted, because he just went, I'm sorry, say that again. I said, there's going to be a sequel to Elite. And he said, you're going to come out, you're coming over? And I went, I can do. And he went, okay, And I can remember dashing over there with this magazine, and I got there, and again he'd gone back to being a sullen, hungover teenager. I showed this magazine, and I think we picked that article to pieces between us. We sat there and analysed every picture, looked at every picture, read every paragraph, because Frontier was promising such a huge, huge package. It was immense. For those of you who haven't played Frontier, what it offered you was a 1-to-1 scale replica of the galaxy. Every part of the Milky Way, be it realistic or theoretical, is in this game. And what made it even more fantastic is it was all on one disc. On one standard Amiga floppy disk. Which was genius. So, anyway, back to the preamble for its release. So we read this article, and we got all excited, and there was no real release date given. Not that I remember. But at that age, you don't really understand. Well, maybe it was just me. You don't really get all this development thing. You think if a game's in preview, then it's about to be released, which, to be fair, was pretty much common cause back then. You know, you'd see a preview in Amiga format or something, and then 1 or 2 months later it was out. Anyway, September, October happens. November would be the next time the December issue of Amiga Power was the next time I'd read about Elite 2. And again, I was all excited, and it promised to be out in the new year. Now, for me, that meant January, February. So, save Christmas money. January comes round, nothing. You're getting odd tidbits in magazines. And I remember it even being on Games Master. And it showed you this footage of it, and it didn't look that impressive from what I remember, because I remember it was running quite slow. It was quite juddery. But again, development. So 1993 progresses. I do my GCSEs. Still no sign of this game. I leave school. Still no sign of this game. During the summer, a demo is released. I think it was during the summer. And all it was the introduction on a loop. But that was enough. Because it was showing you something that, it was using the same engine as the gameplay. And it looked brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. I watched this. I watched it over and over again. You say it was a loop. I started my sixth form. Nothing. Then we come to the October half term of 1993. And do you remember Bad Influence on ITV with Andy Crane and Violet Berlin? Because I do. So I remember this particular edition. Towards the end of this particular edition, on this miserable Thursday in 1993, they went, oh, by the way, Frontier's out tomorrow. Excuse me. And I just remember thinking, what? Frontier's out tomorrow? And I just completely gobsmacked. And the next morning comes round, and I ring my local computer shop in Crewe. And I said, excuse me, have you got a copy of Frontier in? And he went, a couple. And I've got a scene in my head from that episode of The Simpsons where Homer buys Bart the radio mic, and the guy says, a couple, and he's got a warehouse full of them. And I've got this in my head thinking, And I went, a couple? He went, I've got 5 in stock. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a couple. Kind of. Times 2 and add 1. But yeah. I said, can you save me one? And he knew who I was. He recognised my voice, and he said, I can, but you need to come now. And this was at 8:30, 9 on a Friday morning. You need to come now. So I did. I got my mum to take me up there in the car, and 9 o'clock, as soon as he opened, I was there, running, give my money. Okay, thanks, bye, out, gone. I would find out several weeks later from the same chap who ran this shop that the other 4 copies of Frontier were gone by 9:30 that morning. Prove what a success it was. Well, was it? But we'll come to that again in a minute. So I get this game home, and I get playing it. And it's unlike anything I've ever played before, because it was the epitome of open world. There's just no story to it, really. Well, there's a bit of a backstory. You've got a ship and some money because it's been bequeathed to you by your grandfather, who was the original character from Elite, the original Commander Jameson from Elite. And you can pick from a number of starting locations, including the Ross 154 system, our solar system, and you can even start from Lave with the original Cobra Mark III and 100 credits, so you can play like the original, which is great. For those of us who can't dock, and I include myself amongst them, Frontier was kind enough to give you an automatic pilot straight away. Woohoo! Says Ben. So docking wasn't an issue. You could just set your sights, get on with it, dock, done. But then Frontier offered something a little bit more than Elite did, in the fact that you could land on planets. And again, this was a big deal, because you could land on planets. You could go to London on Earth. You could go all over the place. But I'm going to say it again: you could land on planets. It really was a big deal. And I can remember, going to Earth and going to London and like San Francisco and whatever, and just landing, because, and I'm going to say it again, you could land on planets. It was pretty cool. One of the big problems with an open world game like Frontier is how to actually get started. It's all well and good saying, oh, you do what you want, but you need money in game, so you can do what you want. So, when I started playing Frontier, I came up with an idea. And it was born from doing a trade between Barnard Star and Sol. I noticed that if you bought in Barnard Star robots and computers and took them to any station in the Sol system, you could make a bit of a killing. And then if you took grain and fruit and veg from Sol back to Barnard Star, you could make a tidy profit as well. And I used to call this the Barnard Star Milk Run. And I would do this for hours, just so I could make a bit of capital. And you'll be able to watch me doing this on my channel, but I'll talk about that again in a minute. Elite wasn't without its problems. It had some positive bugs, if you will, that benefited the game player. One of them was if you had a ship and you put passengers in passenger compartments on your ship and tried to sell it, you wouldn't sell the ship, but you'd make the money. There was a triangulation bug where you could jump to a system several hundred light years away and then jump back to the system next to you. Again, all about triangulation. The bug I remember mostly, though, was if you tried to land on a planet at normal speed, I should explain, I haven't explained already, you could accelerate the in-game time passage in Frontier, which was handy for doing docking and, flying into systems and whatnot. But if you tried to land on a planet doing that, doing it at normal speed, you would crash quite spectacularly. Well, explode. My first copy of Frontier died. As I say, the first ones were bugged to hell. Again, this could be due to the fact that the game was released unfinished. I won't say unfinished, buggy. Now, if you want unfinished and unpolished, come back next week. But so I had to take my copy of Frontier back. And it was like, oh no, it's not working. But I got another copy, and everybody was happy. But of course, back then the internet was in its very, very, very embryonic infancy, and there's no such thing as updates. You couldn't update and patch a game like you can today. Your game was knackered. It was knackered. there's nothing really you could do about it apart from take it back to the shop and go, it's not working. And you were very much at the mercy and the discretion of the shop owner. As I said before, Frontier was a great game, but it wasn't universally well received. Certain magazines criticised it for its laggy performance on certain lower end Amigas. I had a 500 plus with, at that point, 2 meg on board, and it worked just fine for me. But some people reported it being laggy, and one magazine, I can't remember which one it was, actually said it was dull, and I can understand that. Open world games have the potential to be incredibly dull if you don't know what you're doing. If you've just gone into it willy-nilly, they have very much the potential of being very dull and very boring. But for me, Frontier wasn't. Frontier was brilliant. One thing I haven't mentioned about Frontier, and it's remiss of me not to, so I'm going to have to go and stand in the naughty corner, is the missions. You in Elite, you had 2 missions that you could do, but Frontier's full of them. Take this package to this system. Take these people to this system. Go and kill this bloke. Go and blow up that ship. Even spying. I mean, it was brilliant. The stuff you could do was just phenomenal. I mean, hell, you could go and get a mining machine, go and dump it on some rock, and come back later on and go, oh look, I've mined things. Hooray! I have mined. Oh, very exciting. Well, if you like that kind of thing, it is exciting. And I do. And if you want to see more of me playing it, follow the link in the description below, and you'll be able to watch my regularly updated video series on Frontier. I'll post the first part, which will be up now, while you're watching this. I have recorded the second part. I put it up in the next couple of days, and I will be recording the game as I play. I'm started doing the milk run that I talked about before. It's a little bit basic at the moment, but I will get commentary going on it once I figure out how to get everything working together, in tandem. But I hope you enjoy it. And I hope you've enjoyed this video as well on Frontier. Hated by some, loved by many. I'm in the latter camp. But if you really want buggy and laggy, come back next week. We go to 1995 and First Encounters. Again, I love First Encounters, but well, you'll see. See you next week. Take care. And bye-bye. Don't forget, if you haven't already, press the subscribe button so you can get notifications and whatnot about our latest videos. And if you've already done that, you're not off the hook. Down there, that thumbs up thing, give it a press, give us a thumbs up, you know you want to. And also, leave a comment, start a discussion, tell us what you think, tell us if we've got anything wrong. Because it's not us that's wrong, it'll be you that's wrong, but, it's a free country, you can say what you want. Bye.